we can say definitively that religions are all bullshit.
Welcome to Brainstorm.
We have the explicit tag for a reason.
This is a base level argument to a higher level morality.
I get paid to science?
To science as much as one can science.
What the hell was my point?
Trigger warning. The Brainstorm podcast will criticize your most cherished beliefs. We attack nonsense in all its forms and discuss difficult subjects. If you peddle pseudoscience, supernatural woo, or religious dogma, then this is not your safe place. This is the home of hardcore skepticism.
Capital's always Rome.
Hi, and welcome to the Brainstorm Podcast, Skeptic Studio, where we do interviews, major topics, and news related to skepticism and atheism. I'm Cory, and my panel tonight are Lisa.
It's me.
Leo.
Hey there.
Rene.
Hello.
Angela.
Hello.
And Destin.
It's me.
With the always amazing Dave doing sound.
Did you usurp
I'm going to mute that mic. Yes, I usurped Mike.
Just mute. We're here in Roman Empire Studios in Regina, Saskatchewan, and today is January 5th, 2018. Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Oh, fuck, that was the worst.
That was
Accent of all time.
already the worst show we've ever done this year.
Our guest tonight is Keith from the Not Another Atheist Podcast. How's it going?
This is kind of that was the name is kind of a sick joke, you know. It's kind of like that whole Daniel Tosh joke where he's saying, "I'm going to open up a restaurant that's called Thank You for Calling. How may I help you?" So when everybody calls, they say, "Thank you for calling. Thank you for calling. How may I help you? How may I help you?" That was what I was going for, really, in the name of the show. And now that I've completely bored the single listener you told me you guys have, yes, I am Keith from Not Another Atheist Podcast, and I am here to. I think you said I'm supposed to ruin your show or something.
Something like that. Although we have a full crew ready to do that.
We've done a pretty good job already.
If you missed the
That's kind of a low bar.
We're experienced.
You have not listened to my show, have you?
Excuse me, I think we set a high bar for ruining shows. Thank you very much.
Yes, yeah.
We're the best at it. We're huge, okay?
But it's good to have a backup.
huge.
It's good to have a backup.
So, speaking of your show, where I guess why don't you tell us a little bit about it? When did it start? And I guess where is your partner?
That's a good question, Cory. My partner, she, I honestly, her boyfriend's military, and they're coordinating their lives, and I guess something important got shifted around from next weekend to next weekend or something. I'm not 100% certain of it. She kind of disappeared off the face of the earth over the last few days. I guess things have just really hit the fan over there. But as for how we started, well, when we first started putting out episodes, it was a couple of years ago now. I used to work overnights, and I really got into podcasts because I got bored of listening to music for 8 hours, which I don't know how that's possible. But I started listening to like audiobooks and podcasts overnight, and the first two that I found, they sustained me for a couple of months because they had years worth of backlogs to listen to. And then as I ran out of fresh episodes of those, I started branching out, checking out other ones that were recommended by a coworker. And then finally one night I was listening to a couple of them. I'm like, these guys are clowns. They do this. I could do this. Only I realized I'm probably not the most exciting person, so I talked to probably one of the most profane people I know. And by the way, I'm a fellow Canadian like you. It's nice to be among my own people for once. And I have to try to make up the attitude for a fucking New Yorker. By the way, can I swear on this podcast?
Yes.
No. Please do.
What? We're allowed to swear?
Absolutely not.
When did that start?
Lisa missed the memo
okay, I
that we
broke
sent
the ice.
out.
Got it. Okay, good to know. Okay. Anyway, so I have to make up the attitude for, a polite Canadian and a New Yorker now. So I'm really on the spot and the pressure's on.
Where in Canada are you from, though? Where? Are you as Canadian as we are?
He
said Saskatchewan.
You have to promise not to hate me here.
We promise.
Uh-oh.
You're from Toronto, aren't
You're
you?
from Manitoba, are you?
Oh my God. Oh, okay. I don't feel that bad. No, I'm from Calgary.
I'm from Calgary.
You're fine.
Calgary's okay.
You like us?
You have the best mayor in the country.
Half of Calgary is Saskatchewan.
That's true.
It's hard to get people in Saskatchewan really worked up about hate anyone other than themselves.
Well, Ontario.
Yeah.
Or brown people.
Alberta
brown
doesn't
people,
suck,
yeah.
but Calgary does. It's a song.
Well, you know.
It's a good song.
Is that a song?
Yeah.
I've been there.
Arrogant Worms.
I like Calgary.
Oh, I do love the Arrogant Worms.
They're brilliant.
So how did you meet Jen and become a podcast of two countries, I guess?
How did we? Right. So it's been so many years, guys. No, we started talking in an old atheist Facebook group that we both were a part of, and they used to have me Mondays, something Wednesday, something Thursday, something Friday, and then Selfie Saturday. And I posted something on a Saturday, and she started chit-chatting in the comments, and then we started messaging back and forth, and we realized we are far too much alike to not be friends. So thus blossomed a friendship, and we would spend a lot of time, she would send me a message being like, oh my God, look at what this idiot is posting. And I'd go check it out. The two of us would just, shoot the shit and blah, blah, blah. And then in my brilliant idea to start a podcast, I was like, she would be an ideal person to do this with. She's smarter than me. She's got more opinions than I do, and people like her better. So,
well, that's the reason we invited you guys on. So,
and what did you bring to this relationship?
I do all the stuff she doesn't. I do the recording. I've arranged most of our interviews. And she's brought a couple, obviously, but I do pretty much all the behind the scenes grunt work, whatnot.
Yeah, usually the weak link does all that stuff.
Good try.
Oh.
But I can reach the things on the top shelf because she's 4'11". I'm over 6 feet. So.
There you go.
Are you guys physically in the same city?
No, she's in Tennessee.
Tennessee. I thought she's a New Yorker in Tennessee.
And are you a Calgarian in Calgary?
I am.
Okay. And what is the relevance of reaching things on top shelves? I'm so confused.
She's short.
He was saying, usually the weakling does all the work. And I was like, yeah, well, I do something important, okay?
Okay.
Oh, no, I was saying that just to make fun of Cory.
Oh.
Because he does all the behind the scenes.
He does do all that, but it's mostly because the rest of us.
It's because I'm the one with a work ethic.
Yes, correct.
He's got a part-time job.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So really we're just trying to, keep his self-esteem low enough that he doesn't realize he can
do better.
Yeah.
We don't.
So
really
it's a typical relationship.
Yeah. Typical podcast. Yeah. So you said you'd been doing your show for a couple of years now?
Yeah, we used to do it bi-weekly. However, both of us have had major shifts in our schedules, and now that I no longer work nights, I'm not as on Jen's schedule, which can make things a little difficult. I used to work nights, and now I'm up at 6 a.m. instead of going to bed at 6 a.m. So it tends to shift your availability, and she's a mom. She's got a kid. I got a full-time job. I got a wedding that's coming up, so I'm doing that whole thing.
Your wedding?
Are you a wedding planner, or is it okay?
I'm doing a wedding later on this year. Yeah, it takes up a lot of time. I wish somebody would have told me how much time it takes.
I could have told you that.
If only you'd asked.
Yeah, you should have said something a really long time ago.
A year and a half ago, when I made this decision, I should have put it out to the internet, being like, "Is doing a wedding good?"
Yeah, that might have been dangerous.
Yeah, because seriously, meanwhile, I'm my brain is trying to use my filter so bad to say, don't mention the cost of divorce. Don't mention the cost of divorce.
Okay, so is it cheaper to divorce or to die?
Die.
Oh,
it's easily cheaper to die.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
So you're busy and you don't record as much.
Yeah,
no,
you guys haven't put out an episode for a little while, but you must be planning more coming up?
Yes, actually, Jen was confused. She thought you were coming onto our show and we were recording tonight, and I had to go, no, Jen, that's not where this conversation went. And So anyways, we're planning to put out an episode next week. We promised we've got a topic on deck, so we have to make good on that finally.
Perfect. Yeah, I listened to the last couple, but it's been a little while.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry.
No, you guys had a good conversation, a good back and forth. Not like us with the constant awkward silences.
And interruptions.
It's more like constant railroading and interrupting.
Yeah.
We just need to schedule.
To be fair, though, I get to like edit all of that, so I kind of reduce that down. That's the magic right there. Not to reveal the man behind the curtain, but I have that going for me. So for a future reference.
I think Cory tried that and it drove him insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not easy.
It can be a lot of work.
The guy that has the work ethic.
Yeah.
I've seen that on Facebook. He posts a lot, and it sounds like he's a very busy guy. You guys are pretty lucky to have him. I wish I could have him.
See, there you go. Somebody appreciates me.
I think if we didn't have Cory, there wouldn't be a show. Like the rest of us be like,
no question, there wouldn't be a show.
I don't know. We had a pretty good show.
The rest of us barely show up. Like, let's be honest.
I got pieces of paper.
When you show up.
Oh shit!
So what do you do for work?
Oh, I'm glad I was like, I breathe.
I do things.
Poop.
Currently I'm.
Everybody does that.
I said fuck about it.
I manage the warehouse for a fitness retail company. On the side, though, I do personal training as well because I live at a gym. Because without the gym, I might go crazy.
Sounds like Cory.
Fair.
Right?
Except I've had a rough couple months.
Oh,
I think I've been going.
Here we go.
Cory.
I couldn't go to the gym today because blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, that's like every other Facebook status. It's true.
Couldn't go to the gym because I'm posting about how I couldn't go to the gym
because I had to edit somebody out of the podcast.
I go by the gym at least twice a day.
Had to create a.
I drive by a gym twice a day.
Exactly.
Oh fuck! I stopped going to gyms because I decided they smelled, and running outside smelled better and was more interesting and cheaper.
And you can run outside when it's 45 below.
I did it. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. Just gotta cover it.
Wow.
Yeah.
45 below.
No, I did it in -40, not -45. Don't exaggerate.
Oh, yeah.
That 5 degree difference
really makes a big
difference. It makes it, below minus whatever it is, 25, 30, you can't really show any skin whatsoever. It doesn't matter. Like, you could be on Mars. It doesn't matter. Like,
yeah.
It's true.
Anyways. Okay, but no, gyms are good. Yeah, good job.
Lift things up, put them down again.
I like lifting things up and putting them down.
I used to. I just don't do it anymore, and I'm fat and out of shape, and I feel bad about it.
So you got to make fun of people who put effort
Except
in.
I don't really feel bad about it. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's
more
okay.
candy in my face.
No, actually, last month I had trouble reminding myself that I am a person who goes to the gym. So.
Well, you got to prioritize that, right? Like, even like whatever. Well, I was going to, you know what? Okay, this is not, but even past presidents of the United States have made time to exercise, right? In their busy schedule.
Right.
Not this one, I assume, but
not Trump.
But I would assume so, but.
He believes that
it makes time to golf.
You only have a certain amount of energy over the course of your life. And if you expend it too much.
And if you look at all his friends who work out, they're all getting like hip replacements now and like knee replacements. And that's definitely because they did exercise.
I think so. It seems like
absolutely
no,
and he just doesn't know how to metabolize time properly.
yeah, that's right.
I was also thinking this is probably why he doesn't think a lot either, because he's just conserving energy.
Yeah, that's
well,
right.
And maybe if he's in
holy
the beginning,
shit, it all makes sense.
Yeah,
it all adds up now.
If he's in the beginning stages of dementia, like some people have suggested, that can be brought on by lack of exercise.
Well, hey, I had a question I wanted to ask a random Albertan. And you are Mr. Random Albertan. Does everybody still want to assassinate Rachel Notley? Or is it okay now that she's fixed your economy?
I'm sorry, I'm not nearly drunk enough to actually go down that fucking rabbit hole. I do not understand my province. I really don't. We so strongly act against our own interests constantly. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not the biggest fan of the NDP. I have a bit of a distrust. But I also would rather that than fucking Jason Kenney. because I'm sorry, the guy is a goddamn bigot. You know, he's got all. Yeah, wasn't he the one who fucked around with the immigration too and made it next to impossible?
Could have been.
It's in Alberta. It's really hard to tell which conservative politician has fucked us up.
Well, you only had 50 years of it.
That's right.
To be fair, I'd rather Premier Kenney than Premier Trump or his equivalent, you know?
That's true. And
Trump makes everyone look good.
Trump does make it. That's a low bar.
He lowers the bar.
He lowers the bar like anyone's ever lowered the fucking bar before.
His equivalent is Brad Wall.
Yeah, essentially.
No, Brad Wall's even smarter than Trump. Like even I'd rather Brad Wall than Trump.
Oh yeah.
So
a not even comparison.
In answer to your question, far too many people are all, anti-Notley because, carbon tax, which I think could have been implemented better, but I'm not an economist, so I'm really not going to weigh in because I'm dumb on that department. And our gas prices just went up by like 2 cents a liter, and everybody's losing their mind.
Ours go up and down by that every day.
Yeah.
At least.
And as far as I'm concerned, we've let the oil industry have its way with our province, and we've given them far too much leniency, and we've focused far too much on that industry. And for the longest while there, like we boasted about how smart we were, how rich we were, and instead of spending our money on useful things like infrastructure, education, healthcare, now we've got hospitals that can't afford a mental health wing. We've got a bunch of crap teachers. Like teachers still do fairly well, but so it's really frustrating because conservatives, they're like, you got to look at the big picture. If you tax the oil company, I was like, yeah, well, the oil companies are causing the problems. They're going to trickle it down to the consumer. Trickle down economics don't fucking work. End of story. We know this.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to the carbon tax, if you have any intentions of making any kind of environmental policy, tax has so far kind of by consensus is the best way to do it. Yeah. So if you make the decision that you want to do something, the tax is pretty much by far the best way of doing it.
The carbon tax didn't matter because every province has to implement it. It doesn't fucking matter that there's a carbon tax. It's there. However you implement it is the way you implement it, but it's not like Notley had a choice.
But when you're in Alberta and you're a conservative, you can forget that little fact.
Yeah. But you guys wanted to trade us premiers for how long? Why didn't that happen? You guys could have had Brad
That would have
Wall.
been awesome.
Would have been perfect. We'd have an economy and no bypass.
Yeah, that's right.
Our province is still undergoing bypass surgery.
Teachers might have a contract.
Oh, jeez.
Roads, where we're going, we don't need roads.
It's called Saskatchewan.
Everyone's got a 4x4. It doesn't matter.
There was one story that I did talk about with how there was a CBC article about how Alberta ranks is like the top in terms of like Trump support, and I think I did a little bit of a rant on this many episodes ago, and I trying to empathize and demonstrate the mindset of a lot of the people here, because our education system still tells we are very American in Alberta. It seems
Alberta's kind of
openly joked.
Alberta's kind of Texas North. How I
have very much joked about that. That's very much been my opinion. It's just it's very right wing, which tends to be very ignorant to the actual facts. Perfect example of this, like a couple of months ago, I was sitting at a friend's place and they had neighbors of theirs over who I've never met before. And they're ragging on politics. And then one of the idiots brought up Ben Shapiro. And at the time, I had no idea. All I knew was that he was a conservative mouthpiece. I had never read anything by him. I'd never seen any of his videos. So I was like, no, I'm not informed enough. I can't be that asshole. So I just kind of politely excused myself from the conversation and went to talk to people who were, more open to me, just telling dick jokes or shit like that. And now that I've made the mistake of watching Ben Shapiro videos and now had my YouTube recommended list inundated with all these videos of these right-wing nut job videos going, Ben Shapiro demolishes, Ben Shapiro annihilates. I'm like, no, I've watched this. No. And now anytime anybody brings him up, I'm like, oh, cool. So you've never had an original thought. Okay, bye. And because if you listen to it, all he does is he talks really fast and regurgitates the exact same points, and then goes up against college kids who have anxiety issues and can't exactly articulate well. I'm sorry. Anybody can fucking do that. I used to do that in university. I was that guy. I know how easy it is. That's the low-hanging fruit, you useless whack job.
Yeah.
Well said.
What do you think of the idea? I've read a few people who talk about the left needs somebody who's capable of debate. What do you think of that? Do we have anybody that is a good debater on the left, political left?
Honestly, these days I have no idea.
Yeah, like I can't think of a single person myself.
Like I'm sitting here and I'm going, God, I miss Christopher Hitchens. I really do. Because even if you didn't agree with him, the man had a way. Like he could at least bring you in. Even if you were arguing against him, he could bring you in. You know, but Jen touched on this a few episodes ago as well, is the one thing that they have on the conservative side that we don't exactly have on the left is that on the conservatives, they'll pull rank. Like their ability to just lock their numbers in, pull together, and just fight through and be bonded by hatred is just, it's unparalleled. Yeah. You know, on the left, we're always holding ourselves accountable. We're holding each other accountable, you know, and to an extent, we let our egos kind of run away with it. I mean, I constantly am just part of the reason why I have not been as vocal in the atheist and skeptic community these days is because I see so much just constant infighting, and we're really letting our egos go. Right. Or really letting them get to us. Sorry, we're not letting them go. Believe me, that's if you watch a lot of what's been going on, especially when like Mythicist Milwaukee, that whole debacle was going on.
Yeah.
Like it almost tore us the fuck apart, and we need some way to unify us. But the problem is that it's worse than herding cats.
Right.
I think one of the reasons why I think that happens where the right has more success in unifying people is they have a very loose relationship with facts, as you mentioned previously. So if you have a very kind of a nicely packaged pack of dogma that you can just distribute to everybody and everybody follows it religiously, it's not that hard to
without concern for whether it's true or not.
And when you have on the left, you have even the slightest differences that, you know, are debated, and we actually seek to find the very best solution to certain things, and then that actually fractures and divides the left. Though they're all, well, a lot of it, they're all good ideas, but they're slightly different approaches, and then it's never that unified packaged consensus that the right has.
That's the thing with the right. There's 5 things basically, right? There's guns, there's
small government,
anti-socialism, small government, fuck healthcare, and companies shouldn't pay taxes.
And that's the right. Social conservatism.
And say Merry Christmas.
Yeah, whatever. That's the only shit they care about. Like, they don't touch on any minutia. They don't touch on anything that actually has any kind of bearing. We're all atheists, we're all skeptics, and we all have different ideas about everything.
Yeah,
that's what fragments the left. If we only focused on the big shit, then we'd be just as strong. But the big shit is so fucking obvious that it's not even worth talking about. That's where we get stuck.
We also brought it up, I think, the last time we were doing the podcast, where we were saying the problem with the left is everything has to be so ideologically pure. Like, if you differentiate just a little bit from me, well, fuck you. You know, and that's where the walls start coming up, you know.
And that's what I was saying about the ego is just running rampant. Yeah. I'm going to try not to bring up names, but like I said, like after Mythicist Milwaukee and a lot of people have really started to divide, like big name podcasters we've seen totally go in a different direction now. Now they're starting to sound very much like, you know, the alt-right, the anti-SJW crowd, and it's pathetic. It's everybody's just stamping their feet and being like, well, I know better than you, and that's it. And people who used to have a show that was based around, you know, like stopping and putting, you know, a cork in your own mouth so you could hear what the other side was saying and actually trying to have a reasonable conversation is now being overrun by ideology, by dogma as such. And it is fracturing us, and it does divide us consistently. And I'm sorry, Mr. Redshirt, I've completely forgotten your name. There's far more of you than there is of me, and I will not take responsibility for this.
Redshirt.
Destin. Gumby.
Yeah.
Or
Perfect.
Destin.
on the right, all you have to do is throw out the right buzzwords.
Yeah.
Is, no taxes, Obamacare. And the right has figured that out perfectly because they know. Like, it was the GOP who labeled the ACA as Obamacare so they could get people to vote against it, even though they liked the ACA. They go, oh, well, it's Obamacare. We want to get rid of it. And they're like, okay, we're getting rid of Obamacare. No, you're getting rid of the ACA. No, they're different things. No, they're the same fucking thing. And
to be fair, there are
what the right has.
There are some conservatives who try to have more nuance and have. I mean, I'm thinking like David Frum, for example. I mean, he's on as a result, though, he's on the edge of the community and he's ostracized. But I mean, there are people who have conservatives, for example, who have spoken out against Trump, for example, or who make relatively thoughtful arguments, which you may or may not agree with, but who try. But they're not. I would agree that they're not the norm, and that's not the group think that especially
and in a lot of ways,
the right
they get ostracized.
Whereas we just all in the left, we tend to just kind of ostracize ourselves. I mean, maybe we're not being generous enough with ourselves. Like some people do that, and some people don't, right? I mean, like it's a human thing to do. Anytime you get a group of people, especially when the whole basis for your community is, I want to be convinced personally. I need to think. Like I can't just go along with what everyone says. So and you're going to get that.
It is interesting to see people who at one time were fighting against the religious right now almost teaming up with them about because they agree on other ideas. And now as a result, like the religious right actually is on the same side as many atheists. And it's very strange to see in some cases.
We do live in strange times.
It's a very strange time.
I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing if people can put aside their differences to kind of say, okay, well, we don't agree about this, but we can both agree on this other thing. I don't know. Is that necessarily a bad thing? Is that strange bedfellows?
I guess it would. Yeah, it's just strange bedfellows.
It depends if you're like sacrificing your ethics for this, but if I can say, well, I'm against Trump and you're against Trump and you believe in trickle down economics and I don't. Well, maybe we can still come together and whatever. I don't know.
It's basically the right is them versus us. The left is us versus them.
I mean, that's why we have 3 left-leaning political parties in Canada and 1 conservative one, right?
Yeah. Or 2 left, 1 centrist.
Actually, I worked the election a few years ago for one of the Calgary Southeast ridings, and it was hilarious. I can't remember exactly what my role was called, but basically I picked up the ballot box. I had to pre-fold all the ballots the night before. And as I'm going through, I was like, oh, I know who that candidate is, that person, but I don't know who these 15 other people are on this ballot. What is this? And I Googled one of the names, and it was actually from a guy. He wasn't an independent. He was part of an actual Nazi party, like a white supremacist party. And I was like, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this. I'm going, wow. And he got 3 votes in my ballot box. I was kind of amazed.
Jeez.
Wow.
The Nazi got votes, eh?
Was there anybody from the Pirate Party back then?
I wish.
Yeah, they're gone now. But.
Yeah, they didn't get enough support.
Yeah.
Oh, that bums me out. Yeah. I wish I had known about that.
Yeah, Pirate Party no longer exists in Canada.
Was that similar to the guy who was Buckethead in one of those British elections in the last 2 years?
That guy was cool.
Just incredible. Politics, man. we got to have more fun with it. We really got to have more fun with it.
That's all you can do.
Yeah, that's right.
At this stage, yeah.
It's essentially one big joke anyway, right?
That's what I've been raised to understand.
I'm going to start saying that I'm in the field of comedy. Like, that's what I'm studying.
Yeah, that's right. Improv. Comedy science.
And then economics on the side. But that
it's funny. I like
talking about religion or politics, actually. I don't know which one.
Wow, you are.
I did both. I
know. I know which one are you referring to?
I'm just an all-around comedian.
It's funny. I look at Leo and it reminds me of me like 20 years ago when I was like poli-sci and sociology and part of the NDP party and executive member.
It's not what Leo sounds like.
I never say that. Have you ever heard me promote the NDP?
No. I don't mean that specifically. I mean like being all gung-ho about politics. No, I'm like, yeah.
He should have been insulted that he saw some of him in you. That's where the insult was.
It's because Leo's our only true millennial. He's shiny and wonderful, and we need him. You guys are all the jaded freaking Gen Xers.
But he's a millennial. I thought he was ruining everything.
Weird zillennial.
I thought Angela was a millennial.
I think we're zillennials. Me and you are zillennials, right?
I was born in 1980.
No, you're a full-on Gen Xer. Yeah, no. I'm a Zillennial and you're a millennial. That's how it goes.
How old are you?
84.
It's kind of rude to ask that. No, I'll be 30. I just turned 29, so I'm like the.
Oh yeah, so he told you he's shiny.
Leo's doing the millennial dance right now.
Millennials.
You're a millennial.
I think
sorry.
my generation paved the way.
Yeah. You're a millennial. Shut up.
Oh!
Okay. Ouch. Number one.
We'll save Canada from the mess that all these people have made.
Okay, excuse me.
We're still cleaning up the baby boomers.
Okay, excuse me. I do not use, to be clear, I do not use the word millennial as a pejorative. It's not a pejorative. It's, people, like, for example, people complain about, millennials are ruining our country. No, the baby boomers, like, freaking bought all their fucking houses at, a quarter of the cost of what they cost now, even when you take inflation into account. And they fucked up our economy. Fuck them. Like, they're the entitled generation after born after World War II. Like, fuck them. Like, no. Like, I think the millennials are going to do great things and they're pushing our society forward. And I love the shininess.
As soon as they move
I just don't have it anymore. That's all.
And you're
going to be less shiny as you guys move into your 30s. It's going to be
kidding.
fine.
I am. I'm a fan of the young people myself.
Yeah, I did not mean that pejoratively.
I used to be one of those people.
All I can think of now is Steve Buscemi walking up being like, hello, fellow young person.
But the thing is, as millennials age, they will, they'll become more cynical, more experienced or whatever, more jaded. And that's fine. I mean, that's just part of the process of life, but like definitely the world that you are encountering as you go into your 30s is different than the world that, for example, the baby boomers were encountering when they went into their 30s. It's diametrically different, and I'm acknowledging that, and it's not a bad thing to be in a given generation.
I'm not in my 30s yet. Come on.
I said, as you're going into your 30s. I'm sorry, dude.
Listen,
you're going to keep aging unless you die. So I'm assuming you're not going to die, and you're going to become 30 next year.
I want you guys to know this is the very final broadcast.
I'd rather die than turn 30.
When you hit 37, it's like, fuck, I don't care. I don't even care.
Fuck it.
Wow, that sounded exactly like my boss, and he is 37. Shit.
I'm just going to sit in this chair and drink. I don't fucking care. I don't know where my kids
Okay, let's put it this way. A couple of years ago, my New Year's resolution was to run more. This year, my New Year's resolution is not to pour any wine down the drain because it gets,
Good idea.
Cory almost did a spit take.
Sorry.
Wow.
That would have been the most disgusting spit across.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Was there a time where you thought it was okay? Like, I'll just pour wine down the drain? Is that like that has never been okay for me.
This has been my
shit is sacred.
That's been my problem. I'll fucking open a bottle, I'll pour a glass, and I'll fucking forget about it in the back of my fridge for 4 months. And I'm like,
why do you put it in the back? Leave that shit on the counter.
Not this year, Angela. Not fucking this year.
And then you make a sangria.
You finished that in one night, God damn it.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I bet you open more.
Why do you drink wine?
Because it's delicious. You know, the most expensive wine I've ever had was bought by you. You're dumbass. I invite them over, and Jen sent him to the store to get a good bottle of wine, so he buys a $50 bottle
Jesus
of
Christ.
wine.
I'm
I'm like,
bottle.
why does this taste so good? And you're like, it costs $50. And Jen's like, what? Sorry.
Yeah, shit.
I bought my boss a $400 bottle of wine for Christmas last year.
Oh, my fuck. Yeah, we have to suck up to her.
Next year?
You have to suck up to her.
Christy's awesome.
She is, but not $400 awesome.
Yeah, she's
I did want to make a point before we all started laughing.
We don't get to our points. We don't get to our points. Sorry, continue, please.
No points allowed.
No, you had brought up, using millennial as a pejorative, and I found that really interesting because there's an article that I had read a while back about gaslighting the millennial generation, and there was another point that I just remembered that I'd wanted to make about the baby boomers ruining the economy, and I'd also like to point out that my generation never fucking asked for participation trophies. It was their parents, the baby boomers, who did that.
Yeah.
So fuck y'all for that. Participation trophy. Anyways, moving on.
That's a really good point. Yeah. The kids don't make the participation trophies. The parents do. Good point.
I think that's the stupidest shit when Loki brings something like that home. Or his report card where he got 4 greens and an orange. What the fuck's an orange? How about a 60?
Becoming a teacher, I have no comment.
But also, I would like to say, fucking up the economy. I wouldn't blame the baby boomers as much. It was the fuckers who were in power when the baby boomers were growing up. They tried with all that hippie movement shit. But
they sold out. Yeah. Come on.
Well, no, but it was the economy. It got fucked up in the early 70s.
Yeah,
like that by that's then, true. It was on a course towards Reaganism.
Yeah.
Shit.
There was a thing like you could talk to them, the adults when we were teenagers, and they would often say, "Oh, well, you have to be part of the system to change the system," and so they felt like they had to buy into it in order to get things fixed. So,
and yeah, they bought houses at a quarter of the value compared to us, but they also paid 18% interest and 22% interest on their houses. I'm paying
houses, not houses.
Houses.
I would still posit to guess that if you were to look at the total cost they would spend on a house, adjusted for inflation versus the total cost you'd spend on the same house now, adjusted for inflation, you can't compare. There's no way. I don't care.
You absolutely can't. Memes pop up with this shit all the time where they will compare, like what a minimum wage was back then versus the cost of living then, adjusted for inflation.
$26 an hour.
And it's absolutely atrocious. You cannot live on minimum wage. I know. I'm trying to do it. It just does not happen. Oh, yeah. Alberta, our economy apparently is doing great. I don't know. And it's not happening. There is no way to live off of a full-time minimum wage job. And people will sit there and say, well, you need to work hard. I'm like, I'm sorry. My boss is moving from Ontario to Alberta because of our fucking tax laws. So he gets to keep more of his money. Yeah. And you're telling me that I need to find a way to live within my means? I'm sorry. Maybe he needs to find a way to live within his means so he can pay his employees to live.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. God, I'm in a ranting mood tonight.
That was good.
That's perfect.
No, I think that's like a perfect millennial rant, right? That's totally justified, and that's the world you're living in. That's what you're faced with. It is. There's no, and you're right. It is gaslighting to tell millennials, oh, you just need to work harder. You're imagining that you're
pick up a shovel,
bullshitting.
Man.
Yeah, like no, don't deny your reality. Don't deny the shit you're going through.
Absolutely. And the one thing that I really keep finding funny is how you'll always see these articles, millennials are ruining this industry and ruining that industry. And I'm sitting there and I'm laughing and I'm going, I'm sorry, isn't this kind of what capitalism is supposed to be? You want a free market. Yeah. Well, if the market can't keep up to the demographics, shouldn't the market fail by your ideology? Like you're just upset that your way of life is having to change. Who fucking who?
Yeah, that's right.
It's all because of the avocado toast.
God damn it!
And the sweet potato toast.
What the fuck is an avocado? What the fuck are you guys talking about?
It's you put a smushed up
Where the fuck
avocado
have you
on
been?
your toast, and then you can
it's a thing
put
now.
Some salt or
avocado toast. It's a thing.
And what is that? Why is that bad?
That's what's ruining the economy. That's why the millennials can't get ahead and buy houses because they eat.
They go for brunch too much. I have read that. Yeah,
that's why they don't buy napkins.
It's CrossFit and paleo diets. That's what it fucking is. Sorry, do you eat paleo?
The funny thing about minimum wage. It was never intended to be minimum wage. It was just a benchmark when it first came out for what the minimum hourly wage had to be to stay above the poverty line so that you can actually afford to live as a single person.
That's the trouble with numbers like that. That's anchoring, right? Like you give people a number, this is your minimum number, and they anchor every number off of that.
To that.
I think any laws that exist that refer to a wage, like a minimum wage or the cost for getting a ticket or anything like that, should all be relative percentages to some number that goes up with inflation.
Right.
So like, for example, and goes up with your wage. Like if I'm driving my car and I get a ticket, I should get a ticket proportional to my income. Cause when I was a student and I was making $100 a month, I couldn't afford a $200 ticket and now I can. And a dude who has a $3 million car can afford an even more expensive ticket. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have to incentivize people properly.
The only complication I see with that one, and maybe this is unique to me because I live in Calgary where we have such a high proportion of teens that have overly rich parents who have more money than they probably should, who buy their 16-year-old some brand new Mercedes or a brand new BMW. So these kids don't actually have an income. So they get caught speeding. They try to base it off their income. Well, it's not really going to fail or it doesn't matter because daddy's going to pay it anyways, right?
Well, you could mitigate things like that by saying if it's a minor, then it's their parents' income or whatever. You know, I mean,
but I think this idea goes well beyond the traffic tickets.
Yeah, I mean, minimum wage, like for example, like it should be a percentage of GDP as per inflation or something.
I was talking to my brother about this, and I think traffic tickets that's like pocket change. But let's say do it for corruption, like fines or for things like that, where instead of fining the finance minister for like $200 for not disclosing something, which fine the fucking 200 million or some shit like that. You know, that then the guy will feel it.
There should not be any absolute numbers, absolute dollar amounts in any laws. It shouldn't be minimum wage is this dollar amount. It should be minimum wage is this income. Percentage of GDP or what last year or whatever.
Fine, or your fine would be based on your income in this field or whatever.
Right. Okay. So, but like, to think about like minimum wage should be a percentage of whatever. Choose a metric for how you're going to measure what you need to live and write it as a percentage, not as a dollar amount. Right. And this number goes up with inflation and this number goes up.
Well, you can have a dollar amount and have it go up with inflation.
Well, then fine. Then you have to legislate that amount
goes up 2%, then that value goes up 2%.
Yeah, right. But that's what I'm saying. You have to legislate that in though, because they don't tend to legislate.
Well, no, that's what they originally did. When they set the original minimum wage, it was the minimum amount that you can make at a full-time job to be able to have a home, a vehicle, but it never kept up with inflation.
But what I'm saying is they never write these laws looking to the future to say this should go up. You know,
we're saying the same thing.
But you're fucking wrong, Destin, as usual.
That's why I said minimum wage should be $26 an hour if you took inflation into consideration.
Still fucking think you're
Depends where you live.
Always wrong.
$26.18.
It should be.
I mean, I'd be okay with making that much money.
I would be too.
Lovely.
Because I make less than that.
That would suck.
What is minimum wage?
I don't know. I haven't known minimum wage.
It's like $12 an hour in Saskatchewan.
In Alberta, it is now $13.60. It's going up to $15 an hour come October, I believe.
Is the economy going to collapse then?
People are going to take health benefits
and your liberal type government, left wingers.
Well, did you see that thing? There's a couple of Tim Hortons restaurants in Ontario that it seems like they're trying to make a point. As soon as the minimum wage increase came into effect, they started clawing back benefits, but it was just a couple. Like I think it was 2 different ones, just individual ones
owned by the heir to the owners.
It seemed like it was just trying to make a point to. Oh, see, they predicted that benefits would go down, like if you raise the minimum wage. But that it's not actually necessary, but just to...
You pay people more money goes into the economy, everybody wins.
Yep. Minimum wage in Saskatchewan is currently $10.72.
You pay rich people more, and they invest more, and then the economy grows.
Trickle down, right.
It's only $10.72. I'm overpaying my babysitters. I always feel like I should pay them at least the minimum wage. I feel guilty, but I'm giving them $12 like an idiot. What a chump. You know what? Though I max out
at the table, so consider it like taxes.
I max out at $60. I swear to God, I'm not paying a kid more than $60 to come sit with my kid all night. I don't give a shit. At some point, fuck. Because if I go to the friggin' night with you, it's going to cost me $60.
They're going to be fine with a little bit of Netflix and some Cheetos. I mean, I got to watch
Loki.
Oh, good. That's free.
Yeah.
I'll tell Jen that you offered.
Yeah, that's fine.
Organizing babysitting on the Brainstorm podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
This is the quality programming that everybody comes for, right?
Mm-hmm. Our listener loves it. He loves it.
Yeah. Is there anybody on the chat? Do we have chat anymore?
Nobody.
Fuck no.
Not a single chatting person.
Fuck you, Alden.
You can actually
Lachlan?
You can now view the
Lachlan, Alden.
You can view the chat from this giant 44-inch monitor in the room.
It's not a giant 44-inch. It's just an average 44-inch monitor.
It's just an average 44-inch.
Can you see it from there, Keith?
I can't see the details, but I can see it. I am impressed. Your studio is actually kind of immaculate. I'm sitting here at a desktop that's covered in shit from Christmas, and my recording equipment kind of haphazardly everywhere.
It's immaculate because Dave moved his Roman Empire studios for the 87th time 2 days ago.
Well, you know, I'm trying to move as often as the emperors were murdered in Rome. So
trying to keep up.
I still think by this point it should be the Byzantine Empire studios.
Yeah. Roaming Empire.
Roaming. Yes.
Okay, bad jokes. Dead silence.
All right, guys. I think that's good.
Yeah. And we're kicked out.
So I guess, what is the aim of your Not Another Atheist podcast?
Oh, back to real stuff.
Yes.
Oh, shit. Yeah, you guys had me on for a reason. Right, let's do this. So,
what do you do on your show?
Ultimately, the aim of our show, for me, a lot of it is just kind of a chance to do, like, as you guys have heard, I like to rant, apparently. And I get a chance to do that because it's my fucking show. So I can rant and I can clip out, my uhs and I get to clip all of my things. So I actually sound smart and like I know what I'm talking about. I just have to work on my inflection. That's all. And for me, anyways, a lot of it is just kind of a chance to explore my growth as a person, in terms of my takes on social justice. Originally, it started off, for religion, but that's been done to death by now, I think, although I still think there's value in it. We still need to have people who are fighting on the religious front because it's a fight that we're going to be having for, I don't know, ever, and making sure that religion isn't overstepping its boundaries. But my growth, and I think you can see it from episode 1 to where we are now, to a lot of the opinions I've had that have probably changed because I didn't post a lot of these on Facebook. I used to do a lot of really shitty, bad blogs back when, angsty young adult.
Before podcast was the new blog, eh?
Yeah, I think so. I honestly think so because it seems like everybody has a podcast these days. And I mean, that's fine. That's great.
Losers.
I mean, I think more people need to get out into the void. And a lot of my motivation comes, or inspiration, I guess, came from a movie with Christian Slater from the late 80s. It was called Pump Up the Volume.
Nice. Happy Harry Hardon.
Yeah. Happy Harry Hardon.
I used to use that as my Twitter handle, actually. Thank you very much.
Note how the Gen Xers know what the fuck you're talking about from the late 80s, right? Just saying.
I am so happy to be among people who get those references. And his little speech at the grand finale of the movie, where he's saying, get your voice out, feel the air and all that. And then all of a sudden you hear people who are, doing their little pirate radio stations. And it's kind of like more people need to feel confident getting their voices out there and not feeling like they just have to sit there and have their points of view berated and belittled by people who may not know their where they stand. I mean, my family, I will not talk politics with them because most of the time we don't agree.
Right.
And not that I can't have, like good discussion. It's a dogmatic disagreement where it's, I'm sitting there going, yeah, I can be wrong on these things, but here's the gray area you're missing. And growing up, I really felt, well, not growing up, but over the last few years, I've really felt like I can get bulldozed or just completely ignored because my opinion strays a little bit. I think you may, if you've listened far enough back, and maybe you did and maybe you didn't, and if you did, I'm sorry. I talk about how, I very much used to be dogmatically anti-left. One of my old favorite opinions used to be, I'm a white male. I'm the most hated person on the planet. I don't know where I got that idea from. But
it's a narrative that's pretty popular. So,
particularly among white guys, I don't get it. And, one of my teachers in university loved having me around because I was like the only student who was dogmatically anti-global warming. And then I moved out, started like actually reading things, and
right.
I'm against global warming.
I would like to fight global warming as well.
Yeah, I'm anti-global warming too.
Me too.
I was a climate change denier.
Yeah, I was a climate change denier at one
Cory
point
was.
as well.
Yes, he was.
Were you?
Yeah.
Woohoo,
He was also
Western
pro-gun.
Canada.
Yeah.
He was also pro-gun.
I was.
Very.
I was wrong about a lot of things.
I used to be
Are you married, Cory?
I'm divorced.
So you were wrong about a lot of
I
things.
was wrong about a lot of things. Yeah.
It's funny when you get divorced and you're still wrong with your ex, even more so.
No. When you're married, you're still wrong about a lot more things.
You know what?
Once you get divorced, you're less wrong.
When you
You're less
disagree,
wrong.
when you're divorced, it just costs you more money.
Less wrong by one.
No, my fiance
There's more
is
lawyers
smarter than me,
involved.
so I'm wrong a lot.
So your show is a lot about like almost an internal monologue.
In some
growth.
regards,
Okay.
yes. I mean, Jen
So-
and I, we we have our back and forth. So she shares her opinions, has her motivations, and I have mine. And we've had some really interesting interviews. Like we've had Callie Wright on. We actually had Eli Bosnick on. I don't know how I managed that one. We have other big people we've met. I don't know if you've listened to Cellar Door Skeptics. We got to meet them a long time ago. They're actually really good friends of ours. And I talk to Hannah every once in a while. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I know all those people. I think the only one we had Callie on, but not Eli or the Cellar Door.
Callie will come back on anytime we want her to.
She's
Callie's
pretty amazing person.
The best.
She's actually
really is.
She's actually going to be one of our speakers at our conference if
it ever goes.
Hey, I paid my $30. Where's my conference?
So
I'm doing press.
Who
next week?
Between you and Jen, who's into the nipple tassels?
Both of us.
Okay.
Like it's very common. Like we swap notes on them. We talk about which are the best ones, which ones chafe more, and which ones have the best clamps.
I just remember you had one episode where you guys.
I think I even put that in the episode title.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds like a riveting episode.
So you listen to them too?
I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Good work.
Wow.
Actually knowing who our guests are.
Yeah. You know, I
feel like bad for who are we interviewing? I don't know who the fuck that is. Let's just go.
Even our most famous guests, I have like Steve Novella. I had no idea who he was. Like,
how did you guys not know who Stephen fucking Novella was?
I'm sorry.
That guy. Who did we interview?
Matt Dillahunt.
Oh. Yeah, I had no idea.
He wants to say something.
Sorry.
Holy shit! I'm sorry. You guys got to talk to Steve Novella?
Yeah, we did.
We have a cell number.
Oh my God, you just made him come.
I don't know. He's got the vapors. He's got the vapors.
Yeah, he's one of my heroes, and some of these people don't know who the fuck he didn't know. Who the
you know
fuck
what?
He was really interesting, and now I know he is. He's super interesting.
He's fantastic. You should just email. You should contact those people because Callie posted about that. She's posted about that a number of times recently too, because she's reached out to people and she's managed to have people on her show and have conversations with people. So
the only guest we ever had that I knew ahead of time was the Skeptical OB.
Right.
Jen, with Amy Tudor. It's the only one I ever knew.
I guess all the big names were before you because like we had Richard Carrier, we had
never heard of him.
Kevin Folta.
Never heard of him.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
who else?
We've had some big names actually.
And now you got me. What the fuck happened to your show?
Our listener loves our show.
SGW, and now people don't want to talk to us.
Took a left turn.
It's right after the holidays. You know, it's hard to book people then.
They're still in their turkey comas.
Skeptic's Guide was my intro to podcasting. So when I started listening, they had a backlog of like 400 episodes. So I listened to that. And honestly, because I spent so much time in that really reignited my passion for science and math. And now I'm trying to bring a little more of a skeptical angle to fitness, which is fucking difficult. Holy shit.
Isn't it though?
There's not a lot. The problem is there's not a lot of good science for it, right? Like nutrition science.
Zero.
No, that's not true. But there isn't a lot of. It's really hard to do a study on this, right? Like it's hard to do a controlled study.
We will be booking the Credible Hulk this year, and he is pretty big in the skeptical fitness.
Tell me when you do that because I'm definitely watching that. I love that man.
Subscribe. Hello.
Dude, all you have to do to get these people on your show is ask them.
Yeah. Well,
that's it.
And Cory books them way ahead of time. Like we said, he's the organized one.
Yeah, I know. He contacted. I went through our messages just to go, just to look back on things. And he started talking to me end of October. I'm like, holy shit, this guy knows what's what.
Got to be up on the game so that you.
He's good, man.
He's organized, and then we get together, and it just goes all to shit.
I feel like that might be our fault. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Totally Cory's
you guys
fault.
Have bad
Fuck
influence.
you guys.
No, in terms of like fitness, though, one thing that I have noticed is if you do look in the right places, you can find people who try to bring real science into it.
Yeah.
There's one fellow I follow on Instagram because I don't just have a personal one. I have to have one for my training because apparently now you need Instagram to run your business.
That's the game.
I follow a couple of them. And there's one guy I follow. He's hilarious because he's constantly posting him the comments he'll leave on various videos on YouTube or articles on Facebook, just ripping these articles to shreds, and it's beautiful. it warms my heart to see because you'll have to give me a second here. Let me pull up the old Instagram machine here.
We've reached out to James Fell as well, but he's a super busy guy. So
that one I don't know.
Body for Wife. You should follow him if you want.
I do follow him. I just don't know his name.
Yeah, he's really good. And there is a Skeptical Fitness Facebook page.
I'm skeptical about fitness.
That's why I don't do it.
That's why I don't do it.
Whoever was asking for the Instagram guy on
Instagram.
Angela.
That was
fitness. The handle is Greg, Greggm, and then the number's 01.
Greg M01.
Greg M1.
Yep. Greg M1.
Good.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And I followed some of the people that regularly comment on his pictures because some of them are funnier than hell too. And it warms my heart because I'm like, okay, I'm not alone in this. I actually used to work in a gym, and it drove me nuts because I'd hear other trainers going, well, all you got to do is this, that, and this because this, that, and this. And I'm like, my manager will yell at me if I come up to you and be like, you're a liar, stop that, and recorrect all the science. They actually looked at me like, of course, nerd working in a place for jocks. I got weird looks from my coworkers when I was talking about Interstellar and how they showed time dilation. So Einstein's theory of relativity.
So you had half the gym yell at you, nerd.
Fortunately, I'm bigger than a lot of people there. And one of my coworkers, he looked at me and goes, you're kind of an odd one, aren't you? I said, I just like things, like science. What's wrong with that? So needless to say, I kind of didn't fit in.
Like they just had never heard of time dilation, or what was the problem?
They pick things up, they put them down.
Lift things up and put them down.
That's they're meatheads.
Dude bros.
I'll do perfect word for it. To be fair, like when it came to things like charisma and being a people person, they had that in spades. I will never know or grasp. But when it came down to like actually following the hard science and what was true and parsing out, nuance and what studies said, a lot of them, they just didn't care.
No.
If I use these buzzwords, clients will like me. I will make more money. And that was really the focus.
But don't you think really, sorry.
Echinacea, antioxidants.
But I'm just saying, like, it's
Paleo,
not like
dude.
but that's a cultural thing. I feel like if we improved our science education, we would improve how much people care about actually having evidence for things. Like I feel like our science education, especially as it is in grade school, is very like memorize this set of facts and not like science is actually a process by which we use that to figure things out. It's not a set of facts. We don't know everything. That's the whole point of science, right? Like, and it's only really when I got to university that it was really presented that way. And I think we need to change. Everyone, for the most part, goes through school. We need to change people's opinion on what science is earlier. Like, I don't know. I just feel like there needs to be more of a public understanding of what science is. What is a model?
Instead of posting it as, a series of facts,
yeah,
science is a process.
Yeah.
It's
all it
not
is.
Just, chemistry, physics, and bio. It is, there is a lot of epistemology to it, too.
Yeah.
Which,
and it's really not facts at all. It's just it's a process by which you hopefully come up with how the universe actually works, which is facts. But like the process itself is science.
Except apparently they were wrong about the gravitational pull of wormholes or of black holes.
Who?
Like
who read this?
Physics was wrong. They measured
who's they? Who are the authors?
People can be wrong about things, though.
People can be wrong about things. Absolutely.
That is the beautiful
like all of astrophysics was wrong about the gravitational pull of black holes.
Well, then I guess throw it all out the window.
I'll let you look that up.
Keith wants to say something.
I have an advocate. I like this.
Fuck off, person we're interviewing. You're not to say anything.
I think we touched on and completely glossed over the big point, though, and that's you have to be right. Everybody's like, no, I want something concrete. I want something black and white.
Yeah.
Right or wrong. And we need to step away from the value in that and the value in making it okay to say, well, I don't know, and not jumping on that person and be like, haha, you're wrong.
Yeah, and if there's no demand for – oh, sorry.
Oh, that's fine. You're probably going to say something far more insightful than I was.
Well, if currently there's not a big demand for any kind of science-based stuff. So like what the person going to the gym, like in general, they want to hear some trainer telling them exactly, okay, if you do this, this, and this, you're golden. Like, and they want quick and direct
Right.
solutions instead of the whole process of having somebody tell them, well, you actually also need to eat right, and you need to, like, in general, have a good diet, and it takes months to get this done. You can't do this in a couple of weeks. But that's not what people want to hear.
But you know what? Yeah. I want to know what's right. I want to know what the real answer is.
Well, but I'm saying in general, there's not a huge demand, and not just in the fitness world, but in general, like people like somebody quickly giving them the solution. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time dealing with this.
Everyone wants the two-step solution, no matter what it is. It's do this, and do this, then that. You know.
But shouldn't there be, like, I don't know, like I just feel like there's so much bad non-evidence-based information out there. Like, the actual evidence-based stuff might also be easy to summarize.
There's
and
no
say,
money in evidence.
Yeah, I'm saying
sorry,
there's a demand.
For fitness, that may be true. But, like, let's take medicine instead, right? Because there is a lot of good evidence for what works medically for whatever various conditions and what doesn't, right? Like, so if you have cancer, whatever, your herbal remedy is probably not going to work as well as chemotherapy, right? Like, I just feel like I would like to be, I think we should be presented with simple things, but I think there needs to be an ability to trust, I don't know.
But if I hold this crystal, I get that instant, you know.
Fitness and diet and nutrition science is notoriously terrible. Sorry.
Well, we lost them. Boom.
Just totally walks away.
Fuck you guys. We're out of here.
Fuck you guys. I'm out.
No, the cat just opened my door, so I had to go close it so the rest of the family doesn't hear me yelling and screaming into a microphone.
But I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier, the science education. Like, so our general public is not.
They need to value science.
Yeah, there's not a huge value in longer process. Like they think, I'll drink this tea and cure my cancer, and then I'll be done. So that's a lot of people.
I mean, when I taught a first-year astronomy course, and students would ask really good questions, and I would answer them as well as I could. And then sometimes they ask something, and I'd say, well, actually, we don't know. There's a camp of scientists that thinks this, and they're looking at this, and there's a camp of scientists that think this, and there's debate, and we're not sure. And they're just like, their minds are blown. Like, what do you mean? Like, this is a science course. I'm supposed to have all the answers. And it's like, no, this is actually the process of science. This is the beauty of it, people. Like, I don't know. Like, anyways.
One of my favorite examples, so just to elaborate a little on my background. I have a degree in psychology, and I've taken a few courses on evolution along the way. One of them was more about like the idea of evolution and how it was so dangerous to the time, et cetera, et cetera. Really boring class. Didn't learn enough about evolution, apparently. But I did take an evolutionary psychology course, and the teacher I had, she's a lifelong scientist. She really valued it. So instead of just jumping into it, she made us go through the boring first chapter on what is the theory, how did it come about, what prompted Darwin to think what he did, to write what he did. And then our first assignment, like it was the second day in, she gave us this assignment. She put together the 9 ideas that were necessary for Darwin to come up with the idea of evolution. And that's one of my favorite examples because it says science is not just this or that. It's an ongoing process. It's this, and then it'll dovetail into all these other things, because natural evolution by natural selection is not just one process. There's a whole other element, or there's so many other elements to it. Species can get divided by rivers. I think it's in Africa. God, I hope I remember this right. Otherwise, I might get made fun of on the internet, and that hurts so bad. There's a river in Africa where there's actually a divide where there are chimps on the north and the bonobos on the south. And if I'm remembering this correctly, that river is actually what caused the divide between those two species from their ancestor, because they're so genetically alike, but they have vastly different social structures and whatnot.
Right.
And that right there is just one way that could happen. So many different ways. And then you go to the Galapagos Islands. You see the finches that have all the different beaks along all the different islands. You take lizards from one island, you put them onto another, and then they develop all these other features and all the different ways that species can branch off. And it's absolutely fascinating. But people get so bored because there's so much to digest. And instead of it being something that's quick and easy, they can just slap it together and hand it in. There's thought, and you learn shit.
Don't you think that it would be better to because a lot of people say, when I went to university, then a professor opened my eyes. Science is a process, and it's not just memorizing a bunch of facts. Wouldn't it be better if that happened in grade 3? You know what I mean? Because most people go to grade 3. Only like 20% of people go to take a science class in university, if it's even that high. Do you know what I mean? Like, it should happen sooner.
So I may have said it when everybody else was talking, so it may not have been heard. My fiance is going on to become a teacher, and she's doing her education currently. So I've had a chance to see how they do everything, and that's exactly the way education is supposed to be and the way they're trying to gear it more towards. However, unfortunately, you do see a lot of the lazy teachers who just want to have something black and white, just something quick and easy. And even in something like assessment, they have to work to step away from just, see what grades they get on, this type of assignment, see what grades they get on that assignment, and using that to assess their progress, as opposed to taking an individual student for their strengths, for their weaknesses, learning how they think, how they operate, how they approach the problems, and working with that to help them become better people in general, just a more thoughtful individual, and how they can grow from that. And I've really I may have slightly abused the position because, we're getting married. So sometimes she wants to know what I think. And I've tried to help, her gear more towards that way, because to me, that was where the education system kind of failed me in terms of growing up. I went to a school in an area that was really not well funded. My brother went there, and, his learning disability only was picked up when he was in the 8th grade, because we moved and he went to a school that had a lot better funding, so teachers could be more aware of it. But this is part of the problem of education, right? Is learning how to differentiate between what's a disorder and what's just a different way of thinking as well.
Yeah. Well, once you're married, you won't have to worry about your wife asking you your opinion.
Yeah, she won't care what you think.
We're actually, before you get going, we're actually a little bit over time. So I guess before we let you go, where can people find your stuff?
On the internet.
Where specifically?
So
on the computer.
So we don't have a dedicated Twitter or social media handle except for Facebook. So we do have a Facebook. You can search Not Another Atheist Podcast on Facebook. If you plug it into Google, you'll find us on our podcatchers. I think we're on Stitcher. We are on Podbean. I also have us on a just kind of a low-key WordPress site. It's Not Another Atheist Podcast, all one word, because I don't like spaces and I like long, confusing letters strung together.
It's better than having dashes in between everything.
It's a lot less legible, though.
Yeah.
We also, Jen undertook the task of starting to compile all of our episodes and taking the MP3 files and making videos of them to put them on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
So search for Not Another Atheist Podcast on the YouTubes. You can see some of the shitlords that have tried posting on our videos. It's friggin' hilarious. As far as everything else goes, as far as Twitter goes, I guess, I can give you my Twitter that I tweet most of my stuff relevant to atheism and skepticism, and that is an atheist in YYC, all one word. And I'll make sure that I compile all of this information, so when Cory does all his notes, he'll have a lot or he can post those too.
I have some of them.
I don't.
Wait, do you always post from the airport?
It's just the city code. It's just the city code. Because otherwise my tag would have been too long.
I thought it was
Cory
funny.
thinks I'm funny, as long as I'm not making puns.
Yeah, well, that's because puns
are
awful.
Golden. Okay.
Thank you.
And the
All
first
right,
rule,
you're banned.
The first rule of pun. Crap.
It's only Cory. The rest of us love him.
First rule of pun.
I want to know.
First rule of puns is that the worse a pun is, the better it is.
No,
I want you to digest that.
Those words don't mean that.
Worst is better. Check.
Worse is worse. That's what that means, right?
They're the best worst
The more
ones.
cringeworthy a pun is, the better
a good pun will groan with you.
Man, everybody's trying to talk over everybody.
Come on, people, start it up. Cory hates it. Do it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Sorry that we have. We normally actually don't have a full crew like we do today, so there was a lot of talking and back and forth when you didn't get to say a lot. But
sorry, Angela and Lisa both interrupted you so many times.
Yeah, terrible for that.
We'll have to have you back on with your partner when we have an open date sometime in April.
Yes, I think that's what we were discussing. I'll make sure she knows that she's not allowed to skip out that time. Because so help me, I will not promote the show. I'll promote myself.
Perfect.
Do it.
Not like
Isn't that what
that
weightlifters do?
Yes. And he's a trainer, so he's got to promote himself.
Yeah.
He has a business.
That's the deal.
Dude, bro, lift.
I like to.
Bro.
Actually, that reminds me. I do have a video I have to post. I got to show people I'm still strong and I'm still doing things and I'm not dead. Because if you go to the gym and you don't show anybody, did you go to the gym?
Nope.
No, you didn't. You got to show it.
I haven't been going to the gym at all then.
And you have to post. You have to post on 6 different types of social media that you didn't go.
If you miss, then how do people not know that you didn't go? You gotta.
There were too many negatives in that sentence, Cory.
I was kind of confused.
Doesn't matter.
Cory, you're really nice, so I'm sorry to do this, but seriously, if you didn't post about it, we'll assume you didn't go. It's that easy.
Well, but that's not necessarily. Actually, it's the reverse for me.
Cory tells us when
he
he goes
work a lot.
He works 6 days and then has 6 days off.
7 and 7.
7. He's part-time.
I work 12 hours those days.
Right. But most of the times when he's working nights, he gets to work on his podcast.
That's true.
For almost the entire shift.
Well, minus the time that I have other things to do.
Like a couple hours. Potty time.
Other things to do.
Lunch break.
Turn on the pump.
Turn on a pump. Turn off a pump. Yeah. Change filters. There's things to do.
You've been trying to convince me for like 2 years.
Yeah, it's never going to work. No.
Thanks for coming on the show, Keith.
I want to say thank you for having me on, but really, I'm sorry you had me on. I'm sorry for your listener. They may have left.
No.
Oh, no. They know how much of a train wreck we are.
They usually leave after the interview. They're like, okay, well, it's just these fuckers. We're out.
Done.
You were great. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks again.
God, I love you guys.
Come visit
Thank
us
you
in
so much
Regina.
for having
We're
me.
not that far.
Yeah.
We'll go for a beer
And-
if you're ever in Regina.
Stop at chocolate first.
Yes.
Okay,
If I am ever going to Regina, I will let you know.
All right.
Perfect.
Somebody click the goodbye button.
Goodbye.
Have a good one. All right, so we're at 10 minutes to 10. We might as well take the music break instead of going to our regular commercial break. So for live listeners and patrons, you can enjoy the next few minutes, and then we'll be back for regular feed subscribers. This is where we'll end the Skeptic Studio. Remember to check out the Shift to Reason Radio next week to hear listener feedback, new patrons, iTunes reviews, and our new closing segment. This week's music is The Evil Has Landed by Queens of the Stone Age, A Devil in God's Country by Lamb of God, and Disillusioned by A Perfect Circle.
Mm-hmm. Good combo.
It is.
It's almost like we listen to metal.
All right, you can check out the show notes at thebrainstormpodcast.com and our website, brainstormblog.net. Thanks to our financial supporters, Bassett, Will, Aaron, Daryl, Destin Sucks, Lachlan, Lisa, Magnus, Michael, Nathan, Positively Skeptical, Rob, Stephanie, and the Utah Outcasts. If you want to join them and help the show grow, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast. You can join us every second week when we broadcast live on brainstormradio.net. Our next show is on January 19th. And our guest will be Baba Brinkman, the rapper who spreads science and critical thinking through his music. Thanks to Keith for joining us. And you can find more about his show at facebook.com/Not Another Atheist Podcast or their website, notanotheratheistpodcast.wordpress.com. I'll put links in the show notes at thebrainstormpodcast.com, and the notes on brainstormblog.net are still a work in progress. Yeah. Anybody who wants to help is willing to we are accepting applications for helpers. Thanks. Thanks to Dave for our intro music. Thanks to Alex Capper Murdoch for our outro music, or for doing the voiceover for the intro and some of our ads. And thanks to Jason Camo for our outro music. You can find his stuff over at loststateofmind.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. For more information on SOCAN, you can check out the music license info page on our website, brainstormblog.net. Remember to give us a rating, a thumbs up, or a fave on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, follow us on Twitter, share the show, and spread the word. Thanks for listening, and remember, the truth matters.
This is an opinion-based podcast. Each person on the podcast is responsible for their own opinions, and those opinions don't necessarily reflect the views of the rest of the panel, any guests, or anyone associated with the people on the podcast, such as spouses, partners, children, other family members, friends, or employers. No one person speaks for the podcast with the possible exception of Cory, and he doesn't speak for anyone else on the show. The Brainstorm podcast does not represent the views of our sponsors.
We just wanted to say thanks to everyone who listens to us, shares the show, gives us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or supports us through Patreon and Gumroad. We don't have a lot of interactions with our listeners, but what we have had proves that we attract some of the best people around. Smart, kind, and cool. An audience truly worthy of the titles hardcore and woo-free. Thanks for helping us make the world a smarter place.